back to see exactly how the astronauts live.
Mama and it's Mimi. Never.
You're about to embark on a three-part space adventure. Thanks for joining me.
You might want to look up. Trigger step one time, shall we? Look out and up. Out and up. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Synchronized sightseeing right here on your very own bus. Now, you guys can stop. Now, the transportation system runs continuously out to the restricted areas of this huge place we call Kennedy Space Center. We'll stop at 3 different destinations. First is the Launch Complex 39 Observation Gantry for an up-close look at what it takes to launch and land the space shuttle. At our second destination, you'll relive the era of the moon missions, which all began right here nearly 30 years ago. The Apollo Saturn V Center is the largest and most popular destination here at Kennedy Space Center. From there, you take a giant leap forward into the future at the International Space Station Center, where you see life-size mock-ups of this orbiting research laboratory. This adventure lets you experience space at your own pace. Buses depart from each destination at regular intervals to keep lines and waiting to a minimum. Remember to glance up when you hear this tone. You get an insider's view of the buildings and sights you'll see along the way. I'll join you again with more exploring tips at our next stop, the new Launch Complex 39 Observation Gantry.
Only one place in the Western Hemisphere has launched human beings into space, and you're looking out at it now. Kennedy Space Center occupies more than 140,000 acres. That's about 220 square miles, or about 1/5 the size of the state of Rhode Island. About 6,000 acres are devoted to Space Center operations.
The rest is a wildlife sanctuary. More endangered species make their home here than any place in America, other than the Everglades. That list encompasses 15 endangered species, including the gentle manatee, 310 types of birds, wild boars, and naturalists estimate a population of about 5,000 alligators. So keep your eyes open because you might see some pretty unusual animals.
All this wildlife coexists peacefully with the busiest space launch calendar in the world. More than 3,000 liftoffs have occurred here since 1950. Basically, Kennedy Space Center is divided into 2 parts. The industrial area, where the International Space Station is being processed for launch, and Launch Complex 39, which we'll be seeing in just a little while. In 1981, NASA launched the first space shuttle, the Orbiter Columbia, and ever since, that's been the main activity here at Kennedy Space Center.
The shuttle is the most versatile space vehicle ever designed. It takes off like a rocket, orbits like a spacecraft, and comes in for a landing like an airplane.
In order to achieve that versatility, the shuttle has 3 main parts: the orbiter, the external tank, and the 2 solid rocket boosters. The orbiter is the space plane where the crew lives and works, and where the payloads are carried.
The other parts of the shuttle are there for only one purpose: to get the crew and payload into orbit. The 2 solid rocket boosters provide most of the power. 6 million pounds of thrust per liftoff. They're 149 feet tall and hold more than 1 million pounds of fuel apiece. About 2 minutes after launch, the boosters detach and parachute into the ocean, where they're picked up by ships so they can be used again.
The huge external tank carries fuel to power the orbiter's 3 main engines. About 8 minutes after launch, the main engine's work is complete. The external tank is then released and breaks up in the atmosphere over the Indian Ocean. Its distinctive color is just unpainted insulation material. NASA found that eliminating the paint job saves 600 pounds that could be added to the payload.
So, a little more than 8 minutes after launch, launch, the orbiter is by itself in orbit above the Earth. That's why NASA says it launches a shuttle, but it lands an orbiter.
That building you see in the distance is the Vehicle Assembly Building, or the VAB. That's where we join all the pieces of the shuttle together. It's the final stop for the shuttle stack before its trip to the launch pad.
Even in the vastness of Kennedy Space Center, the VAB makes quite a landmark.
In fact, we're looking at one of the largest buildings in the world. The VAB is 525 feet tall, and you could easily slide the Statue of Liberty through any of the side door panels you see on its side.
The bus that you're riding on right now could easily drive down just one of those 13 stripes. Of course, you need really good brakes.
The VAB was built to assemble the huge Saturn rockets used for the Apollo program, and then it was adapted for the space shuttle.
Inside is an immense open space running through the center of the building. That's the transfer aisle, where we stage parts of the shuttle for assembly. There are 4 enormous high bays, and 2 of those are used for assembly operations. On the side of the transfer aisle and the high bays are work platforms that range from the floor all the way to the ceiling. 70 different sizes and shapes of yellow lifting devices that we call ground support equipment are used. There are also 4 large
Remember we went inside the space shuttle?
that can lift.
There's another one inside that building over there.
325
That big building?
tons each.
There are 2 basic
That big
tasks
building
that
right
have to
there,
be
right?
completed in
That
the
same one, right there.
VAB.
Don't touch.
The pieces of the shuttle have to be lifted from a horizontal to
Inside
a
there,
vertical
there's a space
position.
shuttle.
That's a major job, considering that the orbiter alone weighs about 200,000 pounds. Then the orbiter, external tank, and solid rockets, which contain highly flammable propellant, have to be mated together. That's another reason, for everyone's safety, security tightly controls access to the building.
The tiles of the orbiter are fragile, like an eggshell, and easily chipped. So when you hoist up the orbiter, it has to be done very gently. The people at the controls can make a 250-ton crane function with such precision that they can bring it to rest on an egg without cracking its shell.
Assembly is just one step in getting the shuttle ready for launch, putting 3 million pounds of spacecraft on top of 8.2 million pounds of mobile launch platform. But that 11 million pounds is still 3.5 miles from the nearest launch pad.
You'll see the amazing machines that do the hauling in just a minute.
Coming up on the right are the 3 identical tan-colored high bays of the orbiter processing facility. Each bay can handle one of the 4 orbiters in the shuttle fleet. When an orbiter lands, it gets towed in by a tractor straight from the landing strip. Inside the bays is a honeycomb of work platforms stacked 5 stories high. Technicians use the platforms to reach, maintain, and inspect the various systems that make the orbiter the most complex machine ever to take to the air.
Many of the most critical functions have 2 complete backup systems to ensure crew safety. And the orbiter doesn't leave the building until all those backup systems are working perfectly.
Earlier, we posed a huge transportation question. How do you move 11 million pounds of shuttle and platform to the launch pad?
The crawler transporter is the biggest tracked vehicle in the world. A crawler weighs about 6 million pounds unloaded and has a surface area about the size of a baseball diamond. A single cleat off its tracks weighs a ton. 2 large diesel engines generate electrical power for the motors that turn its treads. Operating a vehicle of this size takes a highly trained crew of about 20 engineers and technicians.
As we go around the bend over here on our second set of pedestals is one of our mobile launch platforms. This is where the crawler goes out to the launch pad, lifts up the platform, and they bring it here for repairs. Please bear in mind, this is not a launch pad, this is a mobile launch platform. When they're finished with the repairs, the crawler then comes back, lifts it up, takes it into the VAB. They then attach the shuttle, the booster, the external rockets to the platform, and the crawler takes the whole process out to the launch pad.
Directly adjacent to the Vehicle Assembly Building is the Launch Control Center, the electronic brain of Launch Complex 39. It's the home base of a complicated computer system that oversees the entire checkout and launch process of the space shuttle.
3 days before liftoff, this is an extremely busy place. That's when countdown for launch starts. About 200 members of the launch team are stationed in the primary firing room, checking and double-checking every system on the shuttle.
Kennedy Space Center oversees the launch until the moment the shuttle clears the tower, about 7 seconds after liftoff. At that time, responsibility transfers to Mission Control at Johnson Space Center in Houston, Texas.
It really is quite remarkable to see a crawler making its way down the crawlerway at the stately speed of 1 mile an hour. After liftoff, the crawler zooms back from the pad at 2 miles an hour.
The path it travels out to the launch pads is called the crawlerway. It's 130 feet wide, about as broad as an 8-lane highway. To support the crawler's tremendous weight, the crawlerway has 4 layers of river rock, crushed stones, and compact fill, going down more than 7 feet deep.
There are 2 crawler transporters here at Kennedy Space Center. They are both more than 30 years old, and they've racked up more than 2,500 miles. The tall tower you see on the distant right is part of Launch Complex 40 and 41. Launched from there aboard Titan rockets were the Viking missions that brought us our first close-up pictures of Mars, the Voyager missions that took a close look at Jupiter and Saturn, and Cassini, which will study the rings of Saturn. But the most anticipated launches, the Space Shuttle liftoffs, occur just ahead at Launch Complex 39, where the observation gantry provides an amazing panorama of the launch pads as well as our space history.
You couldn't be anywhere near this close to the pads on launch day. It's simply too dangerous. But today, you'll be just about a mile from 39A and get an up-close look at all phases of space shuttle operations, from assembly to launch to landing. Up on the gantry is a 360-degree view of a lifetime. But there's more to see and do here at LC-39. Don't forget the briefing film and the shuttle exhibit area.
That launched the Delta and the Atlas rockets. Also, when we turn the corner up here on your left-hand side, you'll see our second crawler. When you're exiting the bus, please make sure you have all your personal belongings with you, because you will not be riding the same bus.
Problem.